mother, wife,
Air Force veteran,
gun rights advocate.
This is Stacy on the Right. Here's your host, Stacy Washington.
Mark Beall is the president of government affairs for AI Policy Network, a former Pentagon AI policy director, former technology executive, and all-around amazing guest. We're very, very happy to have him join us on the program here. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, Stacy, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Oh, we got some real stuff to unpack, stuff with a hard T, hard Fs. And I was so pleased. So I just have to say, I'm a huge fan of whenever people kind of go out of their way to make you feel welcome. And I feel like that's what happened with President Trump over last week. He had dealt with many of these people before. They were his counterparts in the previous administration. But this time, I guess they just really wanted him to know and understand how welcome he was. And so they put out a royal purple carpet for him. And I loved it.
Yeah, you know, I have a bit of a background in Middle East policy, too, and I don't think I've ever seen anything like the welcome that the president got during this visit. This was an incredible moment for the United States.
It was incredible for us as a country and incredible for the rest of the world because there were some really consequential deals that were inked over the weekend. And so I want to just start off with your reactions to the news that we got about all of the different things they were able to accomplish.
Oh, I mean, on the AI front, I mean, I think this was a huge win for America. You know, obviously we'll need to pay close attention to the details and to the execution, but the president clearly understands that who like sort of shapes AI is going to have an outsized influence over the future. And between the United States and China, it's clear that we have to have the United States win. And by inking these AI deals with our partners in the Middle East, we have certainly taken a big step forward toward helping secure American AI leadership.
So talk to me about why that's important, because I have already had some people send me emails and they're like, well, you know, you're just siding with the AI is going to be like, it's going to destroy us. It's going to become sentient. And then when it does, you know, we're through, humanity is over. And I understand, like I've seen all the Terminator movies, I get it. But if America's not involved, then we have a issue with the individuals who are controlling it and their morality. I mean, that's just one way of looking at it. What do you say to people who are very concerned that we could be programming our own destruction?
That's a fabulous question. And, you know, Stacy, I think I'm deeply sympathetic to those concerns. And unfortunately, the sort of cat's out of the bag here. And when people talk about the AI race with China, there's actually like two different races. I think the first race in which, you know, the president has positioned America to win by these deals in the Middle East is the race for commercialization, the race to deploy American capabilities around the world, to have the world using our technology. And all of those values that we hold dear are going to be baked into that technology. And as a result, we're going to be able to sort of promote, you know, principles around like American founding principles like life and liberty as a result of these deployments. But then there's this other race, and this is a race to like what people call artificial superintelligence. And that's the stuff that gets really, really dangerous. And I think, you know, we're lucky to have the president here because I think to navigate the superintelligence question in a way that's safe and that's constructive, it's going to take the deal of a century. And, you know, I think President Trump might just be the guy to do that for us.
That's true. And he does have a tendency to, it's not just a regular size deal. Like the things he was inking over this past weekend, we're talking about trillions of dollars in investment in the United States, but it's not a one-sided type of a deal. It's yes, it's beneficial to America, but the companies that are involved will have a beneficial transaction that will stretch, that benefit will stretch across into the Middle East and beyond. So it's great business. Again, beneficial to the United States, investment in our country, which I don't feel like we had very much of that during the Biden administration.
Yeah, certainly it's great to see some of those dollars starting to flow back into America in support of our own infrastructure. You know, I think we're going to have to work really hard on like, reforming for example, our energy grid capacity and the ability for us to deploy our own energy here domestically. And as we build our own AI factories to compete around the world, this is going to be really, really important. And those dollars are going to be very instrumental to helping accelerate that process. Because I think at the end of the day, we do have to accelerate, and I think we have to accelerate safely, because I do think there are legitimate concerns that this technology could get out of our control. But I think with the right guardrails, I think we're gonna win this moment. And like the president said, we're gonna usher in this golden age for American prosperity.
So let's talk a little bit about the agenda that he kind of went off. And one of my favorite moments was he was standing behind Howard Lutnick, and Howard Lutnick was signing with his Middle Eastern counterpart in Qatar, or Qatar, if depending on your pronunciation. And he said, "Better be a good deal, Howard." And of course, Howard laughed, and it was a nice moment of levity, because they were very silently, you could hear their pen scratching across the paper as they signed. And so you have him in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, and the idea there is they're going to build a data center in Abu Dhabi. They're saying it'll be the largest artificial intelligence campus outside the United States. For listeners who aren't quite sure what to make of this, what is this and what will it do?
Yeah, so as I understand, and there's some sort of details that are not yet filled in, but in general, they're trying to talk about building these essentially AI factories. And so the way frontier AI researchers are building these capabilities today is they'll have a data center, and they'll put these really powerful AI computer chips in there, and they'll use a whole bunch of data, and they'll use math, and they'll create this super powerful AI system. And in order to create the most powerful AI systems, you need a whole bunch of computer chips, a whole huge center of these things with great security and with a ton of electricity. And that's exactly what they're building right now in the United Arab Emirates. And that's quite exciting.
Okay. So then they're building one there. This will be the largest one outside of the United States, meaning we already have a really big one here, and they're building one there. And so there's a partnership, basically something we've already done that they're now going to do there.
Yeah, that's right. And I think as these models get more and more and more powerful, and they require more electricity and more of these AI computers, the models are not going to be able to actually be built in just one data center. They're going to use a technique called distributed computing. And so this capability in the United Emirates is not just going to help the people in the region and the people internationally, but also it's going to help our own developers move faster and build better and more capable systems.
So those faster and more capable systems will do what for consumers?
So, what researchers have sort of figured out how to do is basically convert electricity into intelligence. And this is a profound moment in human history. And in terms of the productivity capability here, we're talking about, I don't know if your listeners have ever sort of dabbled with things like ChatGPT, but in terms of being able to speak to an AI application and have it generate a new computer application that does a certain function for you, or be able to analyze data and create a spreadsheet and create a visualization of data and interesting analysis. All of these sort of very tedious and difficult tasks that people spend a lot of time doing, I think AI is going to be really accelerate that work and just make us all move faster and more efficiently. And this is quite exciting. Now, of course, there is going to be a downside potentially. And we have to be very careful, because I do think that as AI systems become as intelligent as people, or perhaps even more intelligent than people, we'll have to be paying very close attention to how it is that we can make sure these systems stay in our control. And this is kind of the $1-million question right now in the industry, is how do you make sure these systems, as they get vastly more intelligent than human beings, that they sort of remain our tools and not something that's sort of becomes more dangerous than that.
So we know that DARPA and some of the drone technologies, they've tested artificial intelligence in use of the warfare. So the AI didn't have complete control, but they gave it certain scenarios in which it had to solve a problem. And in many of the scenarios, that the Defense Department presented, the AI would, if it needed to accomplish its objective, destroy human beings because the human beings would be collateral damage. It would do that because the objective could be attained faster with the loss of human life than it could without the loss of human life. So those kind of controls actually have to be programmed in because the AI doesn't have a sense of morality. It only wishes to accomplish tasks.
Yeah, that is exactly right, Stacy. We can't translate our morals and ethics into zeros and ones that an AI can understand. And as a result, sometimes these AIs can pursue strategies to achieve the objectives that we gave them, but the strategy is going to take shape in which we couldn't anticipate in advance, and that we're going to find like highly questionable. And as AI gets more and more powerful, and we want to deploy AI systems into more and more like sort of high, like critical functions, even including things like the military, we're going to have to like invest a lot more time and attention in learning how it is that these systems actually work at a fundamental level, and how it is that we can maintain control and steer them appropriately. And I think the idea of an AI robot killing a human being. The first time if this happens, it's going to be a profound moment for human history. And I think this is one that we're going to need a lot of attention and a lot of leadership and a lot of deep thinking on the ethical front to make sure this sort of unfolds in ways that are consistent with U.S. law and the American Constitution.
It's going to be tough because the issue is always going to be a competition between efficiency and the preservation of human life, and it's not always valued at the same level. We had a guest on last Friday night who shared that you have different countries placing a different value on the lives of human beings. It's not always a matter of everyone placing the same value on a human life. It's very different. It varies widely from country to country.
This is exactly why we want to make sure that American AI technology is being proliferated around the world in ways that and those values that we hold dear about life and liberty are baked into these capabilities. And so that as countries are building on top of these systems, that those values, as much as we can, are put into those systems. Because you're absolutely right. If an adversarial state, like for example the Chinese Communist Party, who candidly doesn't share the values that we share, that doesn't necessarily place the same value on individual human life as we do, this could be quite disastrous for the future of the international order. And this is kind of like the table stakes for the 21st century.
It is, and it's also it's a cautionary tale because obviously the movies that come out of Hollywood, they have the ring of truth, but they're not really rooted in what artificial intelligence has actually turned out to be. Those movies were written years and years and years before and then turned into movies. They were books first. And so they were based on technology, but they're not cognizant of the reality of artificial intelligence. It's not just the robots themselves, but it's also the intelligence online that can control drones, control different things. We know that it's going to take some careful planning, but we need to be involved. America needs to be involved because we're one of the nations on the planet that actually does value human life. We place a high level of value on the lives of people, which means we would do the same in a scenario where we were using artificial intelligence. And so we need to be there.
I absolutely agree. And we are and we will remain the indispensable power. And, when I look at what the president has done in the Middle East, I think it's a reflection of the recognition that this White House has realized how critical AI leadership will be for the future of humanity. And as I mentioned before, I think, as these capabilities go, potentially surpass human level intelligence, and they start to pose serious challenges to what it means to be human, to what truth is on the internet, to military and warfare, and to every sort of economically valuable domain. It's going to take a lot of careful sort of thinking and planning and stewardship, and I think that that we have to sort of like we might be actually faced with perhaps the most important test of technology governance that we've ever faced. And I know that's a bold claim, but I think with this one it might actually be true. And I think all of the sort of warnings from top AI leaders need to be heeded. Like this technology could get very powerful and very dangerous, and we have to proceed very carefully.
Well, I think we can do it. I think we can proceed carefully, but also herald the advancements. And I'm hopeful that there are the proper things built in on the opportunities that are happening over in Abu Dhabi and United Arab Emirates and Qatar. I hope that those opportunities are being laid well for us to have this new experience with artificial intelligence. It's coming. We have to be a part of it. And so it's a very interesting time. Anything else you'd like to add about this? It's so fascinating the way that this is developing.
Yeah, and it's happening. The velocity of this is happening is just incredible. You know, the innovation, the ingenuity of American researchers driving forward on this technology frontier has been nothing short of remarkable. You know, I think folks, we're gonna live to see an incredible moment in human history. And I think we have to just be, as you said, we have to be bold and we have to be careful. But I think we can do this, and I think we can figure this out, and we can create the right guardrails that preserve all of the things that we care about and unleash the innovation that we need and let freedom and liberty sort of drive the 21st century and do that in the likeness image image of the United States of America.
Well, it could happen. It is happening right now. This AI campus has been unveiled by during President Trump's visit. 5 gigawatts of capacity will eventually stretch across 10 square miles. And it's going to serve as a regional platform for U.S. hyperscalers, cloud computing, data management services. Unbelievable development here. Really great to see this happening. And I think President Trump is rightly very proud of his trip there. Went really well. Mark Beall, President of Government Affairs at AI Policy Network. Are you guys interested in what he's talking about here? Well, you can find out more at theaipn.org, theaipn.org. Go there, find out about the AI Policy Network. We have more coming up for you. Mark, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, Stacey. Have a great evening.
You too. Have a wonderful evening.